Hello, I'm Chris Athenas. I'm a KMP developer. Tech support said they're coming out on Tuesday. I don't know. Maybe they are, maybe they ain't. But so we'll see what happens with that. Today, I'm going to be reacting to an early interview, which I hadn't seen before, about Woz. Again, talking about referring to what I'm calling adventure-driven development. Yeah. So this is Wozniak, and like this was kind of the vibe at the time. Was kind of pranky, kind of like a little bit punk rock, a little bit anti-authoritarian, a little bit of like, what can we do? It's not the thing that we've done before, and a little bit of like, a little bit of cheekiness, really, honestly.
Those of us involved with micros back in 1974, 75, we had not already designed all of the interface cards and the peripherals and the software that goes into the mini computers of the day, or the larger systems. And to us, it was so exciting because it was like we thought we were doing the things for the first time they'd ever been done. And it was the first time they'd ever been done that cheap using a lot of the LSI technology.
All right, so there's an insight there. So that's what I'm calling the micro monopoly stuff. So we've already seen what can be done with the big companies with all their teams of 100 people. What can you do with 2 people? What can you do with 3 people? Is there a new technology that became available that wasn't available before that allowed us to do this cheaper, faster? Well, in the case of KMP, it's definitely a lot cheaper, a lot faster because you have one language, you have one IDE, one set of tools, one build system, and you can go to one set of libraries, and you can go to a desktop, web, Android, iOS, whatever else comes out, watches, VR, whatever the hell else comes out with one language. You can go all those. All right, so that's the breakthrough that just happened. Most people don't even know about it. I think iOS hasn't even gone to beta yet. It might be a beta now. I think it hasn't gone to release. I know that. Yeah, because I would have heard about it. But I've been using it. I've already released stuff on both the stores. I wasn't an iOS web developer. I'm just touching the surface of iOS. And I'm just putting apps in the store. I don't care. I just put some apps in the store. I'm like using Campy. I'm like, holy crap, this is way easier than it was before. Like each platform had to be completely done from scratch, and you had to have these big teams. Okay, so that's one of the things he's talking about that Woz is talking about here. Is like, oh, this became available, and he just happened to be one of the guys that was kind of dinking around with it. Like me, I just happened to be one of the guys that was dinking around with KMP when it was like not a thing. People were like, oh, why would you want to use that?
And so there was a lot of just the excitement everywhere we went. It was like putting out a little table and showing off a little card that would play music on a computer or make color was...
Right, so that's kind of the internet today when GitHubs, when people are putting out stuff and there's very few people interested in these things. It's not like there was big crowds of people coming to these things. There'd be like 30 people there, tops, and most of the people are the ones that have their own table. It's like... And so it's very small. It always starts tiny, right? We zoom in on it, like from looking from the future into the past. We're like, oh, how was that? What was the other thing? There was all kinds of stuff like that happening all over the place. And these guys just happened to be the ones that had all the magic dust to make it come together. And a lot of it's just this punk rock attitude of, I'm going to start. You can't tell me I can't. I'm going to go find out, hook or by crook, one way or another, how I can start a band in my garage. And I don't even know how to play music yet. Or I do, and I play music, but I want to play that music. I want to play something different, something else that somebody's never heard before. That's now possible. I don't have to go to a studio. I can record it on my 8-track tapes or put it on my cassette tapes and pass it out to people. I don't have to go press vinyl. What? Press vinyl?
It was the most exciting thing in the world. We thought we were way ahead of the rest of the world. What I was doing around that time was not even thinking about what are the right steps to take to have a very large successful company or a large successful product. It was just, I had been working my whole life to build a certain type of computer for myself. And I just...
Punk rock for himself. He was making music. He was doing it for himself. He just wanted to see what would happen and show other people, right? And then he would go in and would get nerdy about it, right? Instead of just doing punk rock, he was like, I'm going to make a Beethoven symphony out of this thing. Because it's my club, my guys that are into the same stuff I'm into. They're into going like, they're kind of challenging, like it's kind of showing off to each other. Honestly, that's a lot of this stuff happening. This is what's going on here. And they're also competing with the big guys. They're seeing what they can come up with, new technology. They've got a new way of doing stuff. The group of people are like hyping everything up, and it wasn't like from the outside going in. All of them was paying attention. No, it was like what's that? Magic the Gathering meetings. Like, who gives a crap? Nobody cares about your stupid cards. Nobody cares. But they were like. They were doing this other thing, right? And they had, some of them had the vision. Some were just like dinking around. They like dinking around with switches and lights. I like dinking around with switches and lights. So that's why I was like aware of this at the time, because I was kind of one of the people in this thing. I did my own thing, but I wasn't trying to make $1 billion. It wasn't even on the radar. Like that wasn't even part of it. It was like, what can we make what can we make this thing do?
Just built the best one that was doable in that day with the particular components available, etc. And in that sense, it wasn't like an intelligence that can lead you towards the right path. It was just being very free. I had the freedom because I was only doing it for myself. It was not a company project where a manager defined what had to be done. So
right, it wasn't one of these JIRA tickets. So he's just like a manager defining what needed to be done, right? He's talking about the tunnels of fake agile doom, Scrum, or the dungeon grind, JIRA burn down charts, right? Or we got pretty good with doing calculators, like transistors was his thing since he was a little kid. He won a science fair multiple times, like building a computer out of transistors, which is like, how did you do that when you're only 12? Because the stuff is not that, people make it complicated. I cannot believe how much people made this complicated back then. They thought it was magic because the marketing told them it was kind of magical and whatever. But when you got down to the brass tacks of what it actually is doing, very simple, very simple. If you know what I'm talking about, like you go to my How to Program from the Ground Up course, my famous course now. I'll guide you with the thought process on the way to get to where we are today. All right, let's keep going.
I was lucky to be able to do what I did.
Yeah, it wasn't lucky. He was actually making his luck. He was going up here dealing with he was dancing with a new dragon. He found a new portal. He was like, what's down in here? I was like, oh. And he was like picking away at the thing. Like, oh, tink. He throws a little rocket. Pink, tink, tink. It was eking out a little bit of surprises. Bing, ding, it comes out the gold coins. Ding, as he hits little pieces of it. Oh, look at that. Look at that. Oh, look at that. Right? He is engaged with the customer demands, which is his and his pals, right, at that point in time, and maybe a little bit of Jobs, because Jobs is definitely influencing this guy the whole time. It's like, what can you do? What can you do? Asking really weird questions to Woz, right? Because Woz is deep down in the digital binary circuits of this whole thing, right? Which is necessary, right? You have to have mastery over that. And Jobs was way up over here looking in the future, like seeing people react what they're reacting to that Woz wasn't even picking up on, or anybody else was. But Jobs was like, can we make this happen for more people involved? Like, it seems like a pretty interesting thing if we get more people involved, right? That was kind of, I mean, it's also his own selfish stuff. He's got things he wanted to do as well. He wasn't doing it for nothing, for no reason. He had experiences that he wanted to make, and they weren't going to come cheap.
Everywhere I go now, I go to business meetings and presentations, and they're all sitting there in three-piece suits. It's a large business. There's a lot of dollars involved. The people who have come out of school trained to run and manage business is the key element today, and that's where most of the creativity is going. There's very few technically creative products in the micro.
So what he's talking about is the refinements, right? So these preservers are excellent at optimizing and refining, and they're the most of the people. So he's in this group over here that's like finds what exists like unacceptable and was trying to make something outstanding, right? And they're both together. The people are the worst. They have the feeling of unacceptableness, and you get technical chops like he developed over time. Nobody's rushing him. There was no time estimates. How long is it going to take you to develop a transistor computer? I don't know. I don't even know it's possible. Can you do that? Can you do it with these trends? Or is it even possible? I mean, we hear the hype, right? But how much work? We have no idea how much work goes into that stuff, right? And he wants to make it outstanding, so it at least exceeds expectations, right? That's where he's coming from. And he's on this bleeding edge of wanting to change stuff. He's more on the destroyer side, which is also means he's also on the creative side. So he's on the edges of the preserver, but he's got the enough preserver spirit to like know all the system's rules and knows how the system operates enough to go, is there another way? And he did that from the ground up, right? He didn't try and skip some steps. There's a bunch of stuff in those little steps as you go up. Knowing how computers work and how digital circuits work. There's a bunch of stuff in there. It's like we just arbitrarily called certain things. They're not actually those things. There's only light switches down this thing. Are the meaning that we're imposing on them? That is where Jobs and Woz like had a little dance together. They had a little dance. It's like, yes, you can do this. No, you can't do this. Like, this would be funny. Could you? This would be silly. Let's try this. Oh, that'd be great. Or that'll make people laugh. Or that's gonna make people warm and fuzzy. Or that's technically possible, and we can now make that go boot faster. Like all that kind of stuff all mixed in.
Computer world.
Is a garage operation still feasible in the small computer industry today, or is that stage over?
Well, that stage is pretty much becoming over for hardware. It used to be.
Okay, at that time. Now that we're having a whole new renaissance in hardware because we got 3D printers and all these modern CAD software, and all these channels teaching everybody else how to make hardware and do hardware. So there's the new cottage industry that's just blossomed up, and it's probably going to be worth $1 billion at some point because there's so many people just wanting to keep those old machines alive. There's like a lot of simplicity, a lot of elegance, and a lot of security as well in those old machines, because there's no way to hack in stuff that can't be seen because it's too easy to see all the stuff, right? So there's hidden benefits that are coming out of that. But what he says about software is actually still accurate today.
People could quickly manufacture some simple little PC boards on a small budget, get an ad in a little hobbyist magazine, and start selling a bunch of them. And so very small entrepreneurships, thousands of them sprung up, many of them centered around Apple. That was probably the biggest direction to go. Now it's pretty much that's possible for software groups to come up with a good...
And okay, so yes, so he says it's totally possible for software. Yes, and I was involved in one of the companies that was formed around this time called Silicon Beach Software, and there was a games company making Mac and Apple computer stuff. And it was started in a garage, just some kids making some games, and some people triple mortgaging their house to get inventory going enough to create a software company with more employees and all that stuff. Man, so it is totally doable today. Again, because of what I just mentioned about KMP, it's possible to do this new a new renaissance of these types of businesses where you're niching down, right? You're not trying to make a new social network. You're going to use that social network to do some niche down thing that's going to serve whatever it is that you're finding out here. You're going on this journey looking for the cave opening. When you find it, you may not. If you're going on adventures, you may not find anything. You may not get nothing going there. So that's part of the risk, right? And maybe it's a small monster or it's a big monster with a small prize. It's like you don't know what you're going. So so he was just doing it for his own amusement. So that's part of this whole thing too. You kind of have to. There's all these experiments that are happening all at the same time, and some going to have a life, and some just aren't.
Around Apple, that was probably the biggest direction to go. Now it's pretty much that's possible for software groups to come up with a good software project, and there are avenues to find companies that will market it for you or turn it.
Well, you can market it yourself now. So this is pre-internet, right? This is before there was even anything like that. You had to go to magazines and trade shows, but now it's direct to people right off the Google search.
Into a product if you got something good going. Perhaps once a decade, a very large market comes from zero up to billions of dollars within a few years. It's very rare that there's such a dramatic explosion out of nowhere of a new market. It may happen again in microelectronics and computers before too long. Maybe every 10 years, a new group of people come out, and they haven't been along with the Apple and the thousands of peripherals and the thousands of softwares, and they think every time they're doing it for the first time ever. They're going to get a couple of their own hobby computer magazines that are in their group. They don't come to our group. They're going to start talking and having little trade shows and showing each other projects, and they'll start new...
He predicted it. He predicted the whole, what happened with the internet, and everyone just bifurcating and niching down into whatever it is they're into.
Businesses of their own, and I think that's probably about to happen. It's like you go to a trade show and they pull up in their mobile home, and it's a little garage shop, they pull it out the back and they show it off, and you want to buy a couple, and these may be very large companies in a few years. But right now we all shun them on them. We just say, that's just a couple guys who drove out of their home with it. That's what they said about us. Yes. You can understand it. When you're looking down on someone else, you can understand how you were perceived back in those days, and then you also realize they were right. It's just a quirk of...
Well, some of them are right? And some of them just kept chugging along because they didn't care. Like the people doing new microcomputers based on 6502 technology. It's ancient stuff, right? But people are buying it. People are loving it. People are showing up. They going to trade shows, getting sold out rooms, talking about this stuff.
The faith that they were wrong.
Yeah. So here's the spirit as well. This is kind of the spirit where this is coming from.
What you do remember is a couple of jokes you played. Sure enough, I got into my room, and it was the first room I'd ever seen in a hotel that had a little thing where you could dial a movie, and it would pop up on your TV set. I'd never seen one of these in a hotel. But I said, wait a minute, I designed one of these for a company down in Los Angeles while working at Hewlett-Packard. It was one of my little sidelines. So we always carried our tools back in those days. So I took it apart and opened it up, and sure enough, there were some dip switches inside. And I said, well, that's how they send your room number down to the computer.
Now, how did he figure that out? Well, he probably looked at the dip switches, and is it the same as the room number? Okay, here's your answer. And he actually worked on a system with part-time. This is one of the things that's amazing about Woz. Is he was such a preserver type. He just was not willing to let go of his job at HP. He just did not want to let go. He wanted to be associated with that fucking calculator. That calculator company. So he was designing all these kick-ass $1 million products, right, for all these people to do these movies on demand, all that stuff. And, a lot of these systems were at least, and a lot of them still are open to all this type of hacking.
So anyway, somehow we didn't get billed. Many of you were there and got billed for a movie you didn't watch. I apologize. And going out, there was a touch-tone telephone. So I disassembled it and I put it back together so that the numbers went 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 vertically. And boy, you'd look at it, you didn't know that anything was really wrong with it. And if you wanted the bell desk, you'd punch 4, and it was right up there. I don't know why you always got room service.
See, now that's the spirit, right? That's kind of how this stuff comes to be, right? It's a little bit of a lark. It's a little bit of a crazy mission. The fool card is only looking at the positive things that happen. He didn't think about he could get arrested for doing that. He didn't think about the cops called to get sued. He wasn't even thinking about that. And how would people even how would he find? Well, somebody could find out someday. I mean, he told it on himself, but it's funny now. But if you get that bill, you're not gonna think it's funny, right? When you just complain like some computer bug, intermittent computer bug, a computer error. I was lost. All right, so this is kind of like the spirit of the adventure-driven developer and the kinds of attitudes you have to go on this crazy journey. Give me a like and subscribe, and I'll talk to you soon.